Good morning and welcome to the Morning Java, brought to you as always by Get Go Cafe and Market, where right now it is sub-stravaganza.
$4.99.
Well, $4.99 for 7-inch subs, looking good all the time. You can get any sub you like. Now you can add those toppings on and make it more special. That'll raise up the price, but I'm telling you, it's worth it because I do it all the time. But let's talk about the Pitt Panthers coming off another rough weekend. They played Central Florida, the self-proclaimed national champions, and now still the longest streak in winning streak in all of college football, and they just got picked apart.
Yeah, $4.99 would be a generous yardage total for Pitt's defense. Actually, Central Florida put up over 500 yards on them, 45 points. I mean, Pitt they're just struggling against the pass. Yeah. They couldn't slow it down. Now, to be fair, Central Florida's done that to everybody. They did it to Auburn in the bowl game last year.
This has been a theme for years now.
Yes, and that's the thing. And I will give Pitt and Pat Narduzzi credit. After weeks of maybe being stubborn with it, they came out, played a nickel defense right from the opening snap of the game, which, that's the kind of adjustment, fans have been clamoring for, stop hanging these corners out on an island, stop trying to defend the pass with, linebackers.
Yeah.
It's still the way Central Florida runs their offense. They got those matchups they wanted. Linebackers singled up on slot guys, on running backs out of the backfield, and that's really where Pitt got hurt.
Also, I hate this notion that people are like, they should just do this one thing that they've not done before, and that's going to magically fix everything. It takes practice. It takes experience. It takes experimentation to build the chemistry to make a good defense. You don't just plug players in and, that'll solve everything. And I think, here's the thing. You're challenging one of the best offenses in the nation with something you haven't practiced before in a game. Yeah. Good that they tried it. Bad that this was the first time and people are expecting more of that.
Right, and to their credit, Pitt, they held them to 45 points and 500 yards. Those are both below Central Florida's averages that they put up, which is amazing to see. Yes. That's a team that's going to be in it for the end of the season again this year.
This weekend, Pitt goes up against an old basketball rival. Now, back in the day, I got to tell you, Pitt versus Syracuse. Yes. I got up for that when I was a Pitt guy. I was like, man, this is it. But football? What? And now Syracuse is a program looking like they're building something?
Yeah, it's the first time we said that about Syracuse probably since like the Donovan McNabb days.
That's the only time you can go back to right now.
Exactly. But yeah, other weird thing just to think about, Pitt and Syracuse, that's Pitt's longest running annual rival now, or annual game that they've played.
That's weird.
With the Penn State, West Virginia series getting broken up.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Wow.
Yeah, but Syracuse coming to town, they're flying high, even though they're coming off a loss. They let it slip away. They let it slip away against Clemson.
Yeah.
They were going to be the first team to win at Clemson since Pitt did it 2 years ago. Wow. Let the lead get away at the end. Still only lost by 4 points to the number 3 team in the country. That's Syracuse's first loss, and they're looking good. And what's the problem for Pitt is their offense looks pretty similar to that Central Florida offense they just saw, just replacing Mackenzie Milton, the Heisman candidate for UCF. Right. Now they've got Eric Dungy, another dual-threat quarterback, guy who can run and pass and pick defenses apart.
And you saw that, Clemson has an athletic defense, and he was giving them fits. Yeah. And it wasn't just that he was running this way and moving that way. He was making smart decisions. He was putting the ball on the money, challenging their defensive backs. And again, Clemson's a school where you can run all sorts of different subsets because they got the D linemen to get pressure. They got the corners and the safeties and the linebackers to cover and switch up. Pitt doesn't have those right now. And to challenge what Syracuse did, it's another recipe for a nightmare.
It is. The one good thing going for Pitt is they're coming right off the Central Florida game, so it's a similar thing to what they're practicing. Right. Syracuse actually probably not quite as fast on the tempo. They're still a team that gets right up to the line and runs, but not quite as fast as UCF. So that's going to be something where Pitt playing the same sort of system 2 weeks in a row. I expect we'll see more of that nickel package. We'll see more. They also have that 3-3-5 look that they've thrown out there. So there's a little bit of continuity. That's the one thing I think you can cling to for hope for Pitt, but who's to say?
The past 2 years, now Syracuse is not the superpower, but the past 2 years, Pitt has taken out a superpower in Miami and stopping them from being undefeated before the ACC championship, and Clemson 2 years ago. Is there a chance that they could do that at some point this season?
There is, because you see the talent there, but it's going to come out of the blue, just like those other two sort of came out of the blue as well.
No one expected either of them.
That's the thing. I wouldn't rule it out, but at the same time, Pitt can't be waiting to hang their hat on a win like that. Yeah. They need to start getting some wins against teams that maybe you expect them to beat, because somehow they got to try and find a way to get to 6 wins now, and that window looks like it's getting smaller and smaller if they want to make it to a bowl game.
Matt, it's homecoming time.
That's right.
Pitt Panthers. You know what that means. They're coming back with the old school, the real blue and gold, and Pitt's going to be rocking those beautiful colors.
Yes, finally the fans get something they want, even if the play on the field hasn't been. They've been, asking for it. It's homecoming weekend. What Pitt's doing is real cool. It's retro weekend across the board.
Oh, nice.
All their fall sports teams have home games this weekend. They're all going from the volleyball team, which is still undefeated, ranked 8th in the country now. They're going to be wearing the throwbacks Friday night. Men's and women's soccer are also going to be in the throwback blue and gold. And, of course, 12:20 Saturday, Heinz Field, the homecoming game that everybody's been waiting to see these uniforms every week. Yes, we see in the comments. We're reading your comments on the stories. Where are the throwback uniforms?
I don't get it. Don't get me started about Pitt uniforms. I didn't understand the move when I was a kid, when I saw these weird looking old gold. It's the dumb. It's like when the Rams did it. It was dumb then. It's dumb now. It looks ugly. I'm not saying this as a pure. I went to Pitt, all right? Like I'm a proud alumnus of Pitt Law, and when I look at those colors, I'm like, that makes no sense. The bright gold makes it look so much better. It gets people excited. You could probably get a lot of people to buy merchandise if that's the case. Why do they keep holding this back?
I don't know. I mean,
I know with Chris.
Well, I know with the football, their contract with Nike, they can only wear the throwbacks a certain number of times during the year, so they were saving them for that. But there is reason for optimism, I think, because if you go around, check out the campus. They're opening up their new TV studios at the Peterson Center, and there's a lot of things that they're redoing that are in the old style blue and yellow out there, and so the way they're doing that on wallpapers, on scenery, makes you think maybe we're going to get to a permanent switch at some point, but the school, they won't confirm it. They're being hush-hush with it, but I think there's reason to believe we might see the throwback colors on a permanent basis before long.
There's a lot of things they have to redo.
Well, Chris, let's talk a little bit about some players right now, because in both the pro game where you're following and the college game, we're seeing some things right now where loyalty's coming into question with some of these guys. First of all, you've got the situation down in Clemson where they made the quarterback switch, and Kelly Bryant, the guy who took him to the playoffs last year, he gets benched for a freshman and decides, hey, I'm going to transfer, and says it right there. So Syracuse comes in there, knocks the new quarterback, Trevor Lawrence, out of the game. Clemson all of a sudden down to their third string guy going in, because so you've got that situation. Then you've also got in the pros, you see Earl Thomas, who's a guy, in a similar situation to Le'Veon Bell, holding out before the season. He comes back and now fractures his tibia in a game there. What do you make of all this and the way he reacted?
And that's the thing. It's not just that he got hurt. It's that Earl Thomas last year was seen talking to Jason Garrett in the tunnel, saying like, "Hey, come get me, come trade for me." He's been holding out he held out all training camp. He wasn't practicing during the weeks until he didn't feel like he practiced a little bit, then he would stop when he felt like he didn't need to. And his whole point was, if I get hurt, I lose money. And because it's a contract year, and the Seahawks are refusing him to pay him the money that he wants. So he was holding out, but he was coming in and he was making big plays. I think he had 2 interceptions in one game, and he was just saying, like, this is what I'm worth. But now he breaks his leg, or it was a fracture, and now he's in a situation. He's an air cast, and the scene that everyone was talking about, he flips off the Seahawks bench. But what's really interesting, because there's 2 sides, and this goes with Kelly Bryant as well. There's the you're so selfish side. How dare would he transfer because he got benched? You should be working to get back. You should be working to get your job back and prove that you're the better starter instead of transferring somewhere else. And then there's the side of, and that side also would say, Earl Thomas, how dare you flip off your own team? That's a contract situation. You need to just put that in the background. But then the other side says, well, on the Kelly Bryant situation, that guy was a senior year quarterback. This is his only chance to show, hey, NFL, give me a shot. And now he's...
And the other thing with that situation, I think, is, Lawrence came in, was highly touted. People were thinking, hey, he might be the one taking the job over. Why is he taking the job over in Week 5 on a 4-0 team when Bryant, hadn't been playing poorly?
No.
And so that was a strange situation. And you just wonder about the dynamic in the room, both with his situation. He's obviously not around anymore. But then you've got Earl Thomas. Like, what are the other players thinking? We see that with Bell too. The way some of the Steelers guys didn't react well to how Bell handled it.
Well, see, that's the thing about it. Now, again, Earl Thomas, he flipped off the bench of the Seahawks, and now there's talk about like who he might have been pointing at and stuff. But the coach, Pete Carroll, came out and said, give him some slack. Like, this is, and then Bobby Wagner, who's the other superstar player on that defense, the inside linebacker, he's like, you know what? like we understand it because he was going through it. He deserves to get the money, and now he has to suffer it. He said if he stayed in and he got hurt, he was the bad guy. If he held out and he didn't, and the team was struggling, he's the bad guy. He's like that's a no-win situation. And I think people are understanding in these contract battles, there's no bad guy or good guy in a lot of the situations. Some of them there are, but a lot of times it's listen. I'm trying to maximize my value. This is my career. I've invested my entire body into this. I believe I should fight for how much I'm worth.
And I think the last thing with situations like that, we never know really what the mood is in the locker room, how these guys feel. You know, the Bell situation, again, sort of erupted when he didn't show up week 1. Some of the Steelers guys, you know, it had some harsh words for him for the way he handled it. Not for the situation itself, just the way he handled it. But then you see, like you said, Wagner coming out, sticking up for his guy. And we don't know what's going on with Clemson, you know, how the rest of the team feels about that quarterback change. So there's always a dynamic that we as fans or even reporters will never know. And so that's why it makes it so hard to cast one side as the bad guy. So I just, you know, you don't want to be too judgmental in these situations because each one is unique to itself.
I agree with that.